Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. My name's Sanji, I'm a second year medical student studying at the University of Melbourne, and welcome to episode 3 of Book Club. Today we're going to be going through James Clear's bestseller, Atomic Habits. I'm going to be breaking down this video into 3 parts: the power of compounding, focusing on systems rather than goals, and the 4 laws of behaviour change. So let's start off with a story about the power of compounding. Warren Buffett is a billionaire who started a little company called Berkshire Hathaway. He started investing when he was 10 years old. So by the time he was 30, his net worth was about $1 million. And now, at 91, his net worth is $81 billion. So on the other hand, imagine if Warren was like most other people, and he spent his 20s searching for a career that he wanted to do. Most people at 30 might have $25,000 in savings, so that would be his net worth. If he started investing then, by the time he was 91, that would have compounded to 11.9 million. Now that's still a lot of money, but that's still 0.01% of his current earnings because he started 20 years earlier. And this just goes to show why compounding and investing early is really important if you want to have a nice nest egg when you retire. So the same thing applies to life. We are what we repeatedly do. So we might not see these changes every week, but over years we can make massive changes to our lives. And we improve exponentially. So James puts it really well in his book. If we get better by 1% every day, we would be 37 times better by the end of the year. And on the other hand, if we were to get 1% worse, our bad decisions every day would compound into really toxic results. And this kind of ties into a concept that James calls the plateau of latent potential. On social media, we think that a lot of people are overnight successes, but we never really think about the hard work that's actually gone in to get to that point. So for example, on YouTube, Marcus Brownlee, or MKBHD, he had 74 subscribers on his 100th video, which is really humbling when you consider the fact that he has 15 million now. So the plateau of latent potential, I think, is summed up really well by a story about bamboo. So there was a farmer in China 10,000 years ago who bought some bamboo seeds from a peddler who gave him the simple advice of be patient. So the farmer planted the seeds in the ground and he watered it daily. 6 months passed by and the seeds still hadn't even sprouted out of the ground. His wife called him crazy, but he kept going. 1 year later, he finally saw one small leaf coming out of the ground. And all of a sudden, within 2 weeks, the bamboo tree grew 10 meters tall, exploding out of the ground. So the question is, did the bamboo tree lie dormant for an entire year, only to grow exponentially in the last 2 weeks? Or was it growing the entire time? And it definitely was growing all of that time. It spent that year growing underground, developing its root system so it could properly support its growth when it finally sprouted. So I think the lesson that we can gain from this is that we don't often see the results of our hard work until much later. It's the work today that makes the jump tomorrow possible. So the second part of this video is going to be focusing on systems rather than goals. And that's because James says that there's 3 main problems associated with goal setting. The first problem is that winners and losers both have the same goals. The difference is in their systems. So this is a concept called survivorship bias. We mistakenly assume that ambitious goals are what led to people's success, while overlooking the fact that there's loads of other people who had the same goals but didn't succeed. The second problem is that goals restrict our happiness. And that's because we put our happiness into boxes when we say, if I achieve this goal, then I'll be happy. Because on the other hand, if you fail, that implies that you'll be a disappointment. And the third problem is that goals are at odds with our long-term progress. So if we were to focus all of our hard work on achieving a certain goal, what would actually push us once we already achieve it? And the last part of this video is on the 4 laws of behavior change, which are make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. So let's start off with make it obvious. Time and location are the most important cues for starting a habit. When situation X arises, I will perform habit Y. So for example, before I drink my coffee at 7 AM, I will meditate in the kitchen for 5 minutes. Or I will study Japanese in my bedroom at 6 PM for 20 minutes. And it helps to make your intention specific because it will help you say no to things that will be distracting you and it will keep you on course. Okay, so the second law is make it attractive. So we've all probably heard of dopamine and how it relates to our reward system, but it's actually the anticipation of the reward that releases dopamine and not the reward itself. Therefore, it's really useful to link actions that you need to do with actions that you want to do. So for example, after doing 10 burpees, I will check Facebook. And it also really helps to associate our good habits with positive experiences. So rather than saying I have to go to the gym, say I'm learning to run faster and build my endurance. And on the other hand, we want to associate our bad habits with negative connotations. Our cravings for bad habits actually come from much deeper evolutionary motives. So for example, posting on Instagram is a way to win social acceptance and approval. Playing video games is a way to achieve status and prestige. And searching Google is a way that we can reduce uncertainty. So we're always going to have cravings to do bad habits. But just like we associated good habits with positive experiences, we can associate bad habits with negative experiences. So for example, I could create a rule that if I want to play PlayStation, I have to take a cold shower first. So the third rule is make it easy. So they ran an experiment in a university photography class. They split the class into two, and one group of students got an A for taking 100 photos, whereas the other group would get an A if they took one perfect photo. Can you guess which group took a better final photo in the end? The quantity group actually produced the best photos because they were taking photos, experimenting with composition and lighting, testing darkroom methods, and learning from their mistakes, whereas the quality group sat around speculating about perfection. So it's really important not to confuse motion with progress, because all we're really doing is that we're planning and preparing, and eventually this turns into a form of procrastination. Energy is precious, and our brains are wired to conserve as much energy as possible. And that's why it's human nature to take the path of least resistance. So what we want to do is we want to consciously design our environments to reduce friction. That could be leaving your phone in a different room, deleting social media apps, and unplugging our TV after we use it. And so a really good rule to make habits easy and reduce friction is the 2-minute rule. And this is just that a new habit should take less than 2 minutes to do. And that could be reading 1 page every night, rather than trying to read 1 hour every day. Or it could be just opening your textbook, rather than telling yourself that you're going to study for an hour. These are called gateway habits because you're actually mastering the habit of showing up. You want to make the first action mindless because if it's easy to start, the rest of it will follow. So if you show up to the gym for 2 minutes, 5 days in a row, you're casting votes for a new identity. You're not worried about getting into shape. You're focused on becoming someone who doesn't miss workouts. So rather than having goals, focusing on changing your identity makes you much more likely to stick to your habits. And the thing is, we rarely think about things in this way because we're consumed by the end goal. But in the end, doing less than you hoped is better than doing nothing at all. And the last law is to make it satisfying. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. To make a habit stick, you need to feel successful right after. There was a rookie stockbroker in Canada named Trent who improved really quickly due to a simple habit. He started each morning with 2 jars on his desk. One had 120 paper clips in it and the other one was empty. Every time he made a sales call, he would move 1 paper clip into the empty jar. And by the time he was 24, he was making $125,000 and 6 figures soon after. Making progress is satisfying. And the paperclip method makes you feel successful because you can see your progress. Most of us don't have paperclips on hand, but we can use a habit tracker to do the same thing. So there's a bunch of benefits to habit tracking. Number 1 is that habit tracking is obvious. It keeps you honest, and your streak will remind you to act today. The second benefit is that habit tracking is attractive. We can feel that we're moving forward, and that motivates us to keep going. And the final thing is that habit tracking is satisfying. It feels good to tick an item off, or to put another paperclip in the jar. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.